Cody and I had always wanted to camp in Urpo Forest. It was known for its serene beauty, dense woodland, and the occasional legend about strange occurrences, but we weren't the type to believe in ghost stories. With our backpacks stuffed and our spirits high, we set out for a weekend adventure, expecting nothing more than a quiet escape from the world. The first few hours were uneventful. We hiked deep into the woods, following a narrow trail that wound through towering trees and thick underbrush. As the sun began to set, we found a clearing near a small stream and decided it was the perfect spot to set up camp. We pitched our tents, built a fire, and cooked a simple meal, laughing and sharing stories as the flames crackled. The air was cool and the sounds of the forest surrounded us, a chorus of chirping crickets and rustling leaves. It was exactly what we had hoped for. But as darkness fell, an eerie feeling crept over me. The noises of the forest changed. The crickets stopped and the rustling became more deliberate, like footsteps rather than the wind. I glanced at Cody, who had fallen silent, his eyes scanning the trees. "You hear that?" I whispered. "Yeah," he said, nodding slowly. "Thought it was just me." We listened for a moment, but the sound stopped. I forced a chuckle and shook my head. Probably just an animal. Cody agreed, though neither of us seemed convinced. Trying to shake the unease, we went on with our night. After a while, we retreated to our tents, zipping ourselves in and settling down for what we hoped would be a restful night. I wasn't sure how long I had been asleep when something woke me. A faint humming drifted through the trees. At first I thought it might have been the wind, but it was too rhythmic, almost like a tune. I held my breath and listened. Then came the footsteps, slow, deliberate, crunching the dry leaves just outside our campsite. I sat up, my heart hammering in my chest. The footsteps circled the tents, pausing every few moments. My mind raced with possibilities. An animal? Another camper? Someone lost? A sudden thud broke the silence. Something had been thrown, maybe a stick or a rock, landing right beside our fire pit. My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't an accident. Someone was out there. "Cody?" I whispered, hoping he was still awake. "I'm up," he whispered back from his tent. "You hear that?" Before I could respond, a shadow moved across the thin fabric of my tent. I froze. A figure was standing just outside, inches away. It didn't move. It just stood there, watching. My blood ran cold as I realized something chilling. It wasn't Cody. He was still in his tent. I clenched my fists, willing myself not to scream. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, the figure was gone. For what felt like an eternity, neither of us moved. The forest was silent again, but the feeling of being watched lingered, heavy in the air. "We're leaving," I finally whispered. "At first light." Cody didn't argue. We lay awake the rest of the night, listening to every sound, every whisper of wind, every crunch of leaves. When dawn finally broke, we packed up in record time, hardly speaking a word. As we hiked back, an overwhelming sense of relief washed over me. But just as we reached the edge of the forest, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, that whoever or whatever had visited our campsite the night before had followed us to the very edge, silently bidding us farewell. We never went back to Urpo Forest, and we never spoke of that night again.